Siteweb audits are presented to fit a logical auditing workflow. Each of these reports down the left allow you to dig into a specific section. So if you go into one of these, you'll see that we are now only looking at the internal URLs. And we have some kind of big ticket insights at the top, which can show you just how many URLs there are and that sort of data. And then as you scroll down, you're going to get some more relatively intuitive tables which tell you about the makeup of the website. Now, in addition to these overviews, we also have the hints tabs. And if you go and look at the hints tabs, these are specific issues or potential issues or opportunities that Siteweb has found on your website after crawling the website when doing an analysis section. And so with each of these sections, you have a set of hints. So if you go through, the workflow is built so that you go through each of the sections, and you can see for each one an overview and a set of hints. Then as you go through, the idea is that you try to spot areas that you can potentially look into further or find things that you might want to optimize. So for instance, in the indexability section, we can see from the graphs here that we have some canonicalized URLs. So if you ever spot anything like this and you want to investigate further, you can go ahead and click, and you're going to be sent to a URL list which shows you all the URLs and all the data about those URLs. So if we just jump back into another of the reports. So the idea essentially is that you go down these one by one, looking through and understanding the hints. And the reason it's kind of grouped like this is so that when you're looking at the hints for redirects, you're looking at them within the context of redirects. So this might make a bit more sense when we go to on page. So everything in this section is to do with on page factors, so meta descriptions, titles, readability and sentiment, those sorts of things. And then when you go ahead and look at the hints, all of these hints are presented within the context of on page. So you can see very quickly if you have any critical or high hints within a certain section, that's one that's going to require a bit of investigation. So as you can see, we have these hints which are in this section. We have some medium ones and then we have some low ones. So whenever you see a list of hints like this, you can just click these buttons at the top to filter the list. So now we're only looking at the low ones. And if you want to jump back to the medium. So in this case, we don't have any high, we don't have any critical. And as you can see, the score is actually very high at 97. So the way the scores are worked out is based on the hints themselves. So if you have critical ones, the scores are more badly affected, and also the percentage of URLs covered. So in addition to simply a number of URLs that are affected, we also give you the percentage. This is kind of like the coverage of all possible URLs that were affected by this problem. And in some cases you'll see that this value here is 52%. That's pretty high, so you might want to, that might be a good reason to go and have a look into that one. But then in this case we have in the H1 tag is missing, only 0.75% of the URLs were affected. So that might be something that you'll go, I don't even need to look at that. You know, it's already a medium issue. It's already listed as an opportunity rather than an issue, and the percentage is really, really low. So the idea behind these numbers and this way of presenting the data is that it allows you to more quickly understand which things that you need to dig into a bit further, and which things you might be okay to just ignore. With any hint that you see, so let's go through down to another section. With any hint that you see, you can go ahead and look at view URLs if you want to explore the URLs in question. So here we have this hint, URLs with similar content. It's flagged as an issue and it's flagged as high. Now the percentage is still low, but it might still be something you want to look into because it's a high issue. So if we go through to view URLs, now we can see all the URLs themselves and some more data about them. So in this case, we have some closest similarity, so you get an idea of actually how similar these things are and one URL is to another. And again, we have a further workflow if you want to explore this, if you want to kind of dig down deeper. So if you click on this little burger menu, it will bring up this context menu, which allows you to go to view the URL details. And this is a section which is specifically for this URL. We have all the data that Siteweb has collected. And as you can see, there's loads and loads of data. So we've got data about the HTTP response and timings, and if there's any pagination on the page. And if you look down the left here, there's all sorts of things that you can see about a specific URL. So you can really, if you're finding like a problem URL and you really want to understand what's happened with it, there's loads and loads of data to dig through, including this crawl path, so you can see how Siteboard found it, any hints that were triggered on the page, the indexability data, and the on-page data, and the thing that we're interested in, which is the duplicate content. So here you can see that of all the things that Siteboard checks for duplicate content, all these things are ticked, the titles, H1s, etc. But the similar has some data against it, which was where we started in the first place. And you can see now it's listing out the other URLs that are similar to it and the similarity between them. So let's say you looked at this and realized, okay, this is a problem that I would like to be tackled, so I'm going to include this in my audit. You can go at any point across to this export button here, and you can either export it to CSV or you can export it up to Google Sheets. Now, as it is, you might be happy with the data for your export, but you also might think, well, actually, I want to make this as clear as possible for the developer or for the client, so I'm going to delete some of these columns because I don't need to see all this stuff on here. I don't need to see the indexable status and all those sorts of things. So if you wanted to do that, what you can do is click here and take off some of these columns that you're not that interested in. And if you go to update columns now, you're left with a nice clean list with exactly what you want to show the client. And then if you export that, it will only show the data that's on screen right now. Additionally, if you wanted to filter the data further, so in this case, we've got 50 URLs, right? So it's not a big deal. But let's say there were 10,000 URLs in this list, and actually some of them were more important than others. Well, you could apply a filter by going to the advanced filter over here, and let's say you were only interested in URLs where the URL rank, which is like an internal link score for Siteboard, was greater than 50. Okay, you'll see that this updates here straight away, so you know if your filter is going to make any sense when you apply it, and then you apply it, and you can see that we've only now got these 36 URLs where the URL rank is over 50. And again, if you export that now, it's got all that stuff applied. You can also sort in these URL lists, and again, once you export, it's going to remember that sort. So everything you do here kind of prints across onto the exports as well. And anytime you see a URL list like that, you can do all of these things. You can do the advanced filter, you can add or remove columns, or you can click to explore the URL more deeply. So one of the other things that we've got here is, if you can see down the left, we have these green bars alongside each of these. And in the case of duplicate content, it's orange, and that's because the score for duplicate content is just a little bit below the 90 threshold to get a green. And what this means is that it's basically a traffic light system. So it's either green, orange, or red. And what this means is that if you come into an audit and you want to very quickly find the problem areas, you don't want to go through, as I've mentioned before, in this sort of methodical step-by-step method of going through each of them, but you want to jump into something which you can see as a problem straight away. Well, you can just jump into the ones that are orange or red. So we could jump into security and see, okay, we've got some problems here. We've got some problems with the protocols, and we have some hints that we need to look at. So again, you can see if there's any high or medium or any hints that affect loads of the URLs like these ones do. And it could be something you could, jump into first rather than spending time necessarily going through everything one by one. So I want to just show you something else we have in the hints and how they are built. So let me just find a good one. So here we've got this hint, URLs with duplicate page titles. Now, on its own, if you presented that to a client, the client might be like, okay, I don't necessarily understand A, what this means, or B, if this is important to me. And that's where these little descriptions come in. So each of these descriptions is very deliberately written so that they could be used in client reports. So they never ever mention Sitebulb. They never ever mention anything to do with our product or us. They are like completely anonymized, I suppose. And they're written in a very specific way. The first sentence will always tell you what the thing is, right? So it just tells you exactly what the thing is in clear, client-friendly language. Then the second sentence tells you why it's a problem. So even if all you had was this to work with, um, you would be able to show to your client exactly what the issue is and why it's a problem. And so we have lots of customers that will literally take this text here, copy paste it straight into their audits because it works as such a good way to explain clearly why they wanted to include this issue in their report. Now, if you're reading one of these and you're not entirely sure of what this means yourself, or you want a bit more data about it, clicking on this Learn More opens up a browser window, um, and it opens up a page on our website with a much more detailed description. So you have a load more context about why the particular issue is important. We're also giving you details about what the hint checks, and in some cases you can have code samples in here and examples that trigger the hint. So we're giving you really, really clear understanding of what the hint means, so you as a user can understand what you're looking at. And then we also give you details about how you can go about resolving it. So even if you've never seen this issue before, or this is brand new to you, you can come away with a really clear understanding of why the issue is a problem and what you might need to do to fix it. We have a lot of agency customers that tell us that this content here aligned with the audit. So going through audits, seeing the content, reading the learn mores, that as a process is a really valuable way for more junior SEOs to actually learn technical SEO. Going through audits and real life audits, so they're looking at real life problems, finding these issues and learning more about them at the time that they need to know about them. If at any point the user looks at a problem and goes, you know what, actually, I've accepted that these URLs are okay to be similar. It's not a problem. We know that they're similar. We don't have an issue with that. You can go ahead and mark this as fixed, and you can put a note in here, discussed with client, not an issue. And then once you tick that box, it's marked as fixed. So this will no longer be on your radar as something that you need to deal with. So this methodology and this workflow is built very deliberately so that you can go through each of these sections and explore the data and the hints within the context of the section you're looking at. Now, some people don't like to do it this way. Some people actually like to start an audit and go, you know what, I just want to understand where the problems lie right off the bat. And we have this all hints section up here. So if you click on all hints, you're now going to see every single triggered hint across the whole website. And this is like I say, this is some people just come in here and they go, right, I want to get a view right from the beginning. What sort of things are wrong? Is there anything that I need to jump on straight away? Are there any sort of fire alarms I need to pull off to, set off a fire alarm to say, right, here's an issue, client, let's go and sort this out straight away. And you can see the hints are either sorted by importance or by report. So you can kind of get the contextual understanding of the report by report method simply from this page as well. So if you're familiar with the tool and you like this workflow, you can do it this way instead. And you can go through all of these page speed issues, and then you're going to get to the next section, which we've got on organic search traffic. And as you can see, everything is pre-sorted. So critical are always first, then high, then medium and low. We have this other view, which is by importance, which allows you to see, obviously, the critical issues are going to be at the top, and then high, medium, and low underneath all of those. So again, it allows you to see the most important issues first. And again, with any of these, if you want to filter, you just hit these buttons at the top, and you're going to be able to specifically see exactly the type of hints that you want to look at first. Now we also have this button over here called Export All Hints. So in this case, we had 74 triggered hints, and that means there's 74 individual exports that we could do. And one of the workflows that we saw a lot of users doing was exporting each one of these individually, pushing them up to Google Sheets, and then linking them together manually to present to a client. Okay, here's a list of problems on your website, and here are the spreadsheets that show all the affected URLs for each one to give to your developer to fix. So our users were doing all this uploading and linking for each hint one by one, and we wanted to fix that workflow for them. So we added this export all hints button. And now if you see the export to Google Sheets option, if you click this, essentially you're allowed to connect, it allows you to connect a Google account, name the sheet and export and upload. Now I won't do it now because it actually takes, for 74 hints, it'll probably take 5 to 10 minutes to process, but I've already done it earlier. And if I just cancel this now and I click the Google Drive button, basically once you've done even one export up to Google Drive, there's now a connection between this audit and Google Drive. And if you want to go and get to your Google Drive data, you just click this button and it's going to open up the data. So all of those individual 74 individual spreadsheets have all been pushed up to Google Sheets, and we have this master all hints sheet. Now this is basically similar to the all hints view here, where every single hint is listed. Each of these is now linked. So if you hover over here, you can see that this is linked to a separate sheet with all the similar content on. So I just go ahead and click on that. Now I have my similar content links, similar content URLs, which if I was providing this to a client, I could say, right, all the data you need is linked from this one sheet. And we have all of the other bits and pieces to help you decide which things to include. So the number of URLs triggered, the coverage percentage, the importance level, and these have got numbers on so that they're sortable. So you can sort, high to low, and you'll get your criticals first, and then you'll get your highs, your mediums, and lows, etc. And similarly, all of the warning types are split out so they're issues, potential issues, or opportunities. And they are currently pre-sorted by section. So again, you have that contextual understanding when you're looking at the data. And the idea really here is that you go through and any that you don't actually want to present to the client, you just go and delete. So you can just delete any rows that you don't want, and then the link to the form will be gone. So it doesn't even matter that spreadsheet exists, but it does if you want it and if you need it. So you can end up with your list of, I don't know, anywhere between 5 and 20 recommendations that you want the client to make, you want the client to go ahead and fix. You can list them all here. You would have your hint. If they want the knowledge base URL, if you want to give the client more information, they can do this here, but you can equally just delete that column if you don't want them seeing the sitebulb data. So this workflow, once we added this, this is like a game changer for our customers because it just makes that process of pulling all the data together and presenting it to the client so much easier, so that the time that they get to spend is investigating the issues in the first place, understanding if there are actual real problems there that they need to solve, and making sure that they really understand the problems and they really do a good job of communicating that to their client. So if we go back into the tool, so in addition to the all hints view, we also have some other options along the top which allow you to slice and dice the data in different kinds of ways. So if you go and look at the URL Explorer, this is basically all the data. So if you're one of those users that comes into an audit and they like to look at the data straight away, the URL Explorer is the way to do that. And this will show you all the data that sitebulb has collected. When you can add, there's plenty of columns on there by default, but you can add all of these if you want to see absolutely everything. And it's also got loads of pre-built kind of smart filters, so you can quickly go ahead and jump into, right, these are my HTML URLs, or you can quickly jump into, right, these are my indexable URLs. And they're also like, some of these are hint-like, I suppose, in that they have some filters on them which you can use to see some of the content type data. And this way of looking at the data allows you to kind of use Sitebulb in the way that you like to use Sitebulb. There are lots of tools that present data like this, and having this URL Explorer allows you to use Sitebulb in the way that you want to use it. So in addition to the URL Explorer, we also have the Link Explorer. Now, as you can see, Sitebulb is a website with about 500 URLs, and yet there's 39,000 links. So it's quite regular. If you had a site which sort of 50,000 URLs, there might be millions and millions of links. And the way that traditionally users have done Link analysis is by exporting the big list of links out into Excel and having to do your analysis in a tool like Excel, which is not particularly good at handling big data sets like that. Um, In Sitebulb, you can do it all here. So you can analyze based on links themselves. You can analyze based on anchor text. So whenever you see anything blue like this, you can click through, and now you can see we're now on the anchor text view here, and you can see how many links that that use this anchor text, and then we can click through, and now we're looking at all of the pages that link from the referring URL to the target URL, which you can see is this prioritization URL using this anchor text. And you can dig into this at your heart's content to your heart's content. We can start off just with the successful, and you can sort everything by URL rank, either of the target page or the URL page of the referring page, sorry. And you can also just let's say we wanted to look only at links that point at feature pages, and instantly we've got just that subset of links. So you can use this to do all sorts of things. So if we go through and look at the anchor text, now we can see we've got all our different anchor text variations. We could look at the two-word ones. And so let's say we wanted to explore how duplicate content is used on the site, right? So we've got this two-word anchor text. And if you look across here, you can see there are two target URLs. So there's two URLs which are being linked to with exactly the same anchor text. Now if I click into links, I can see that these target URLs, I've got this product slash duplicate content one, and I've also got this hints duplicate content one. So as an area of optimization, I might decide, right, actually, well, I want only this anchor text to only ever be used on our product page, and something different for the hints page. One of the other really interesting data points that Sitebulb is picking up here is this location. So Sitebulb is going to tell you if the link was found in the header, in the footer, in a navigation element, or in content itself. And this is really, really useful way for splitting out whether links can be updated on a template basis, or if you have to go into the content themselves, the content itself. So if I just jump back for a second to the link section, you'll see down here we have the internal link location. So now this splits up all the different links, whether they were found in the header, navigation, footer, or content, and it allows you to actually jump straight back into that link explorer based on what you find in here. So if you click on this, you're now filtered specifically on footer links and what they were found, what was found when they were crawled, and specifically all the data that relates specifically to those links. And again, you can do advanced filtering on all of this stuff, and you can export to CSV or Google Sheets to move it forward. So that's the Link Explorer, and then we also have these site visualizations. Now, if I show you this crawl map, back in 2018, Sitebulb won a US Search Award for innovation for this specific product that we're looking at now, and this is where there's lots of tools now that have adopted doing site visualizations, and the crawl map was kind of where it all started, and it's still a fantastic way to analyze a site in a visual manner so you can understand the architecture of the site and how it actually fits together. Since 2018, we've revisited this, and we've now got 6 different visualizations that you can look at. All of the crawl ones relate to the first link that the crawler found, and that's what is mapped. And then the directory ones show you the directory relationships. So if you've got a directory like /product, you're going to see that in here. So even if there's not links to these products, it links to the pages between them that use that directory. They will still be mapped in that way. So it's a way, if I show you the directory tree, it's a way to see how content is actually organized in terms of the folders and subfolders on the site. So you can see this nice logical view to the site. And then the crawl ones allow you to see in different ways to explore actually how the site hangs together. So the final one I want to show you along the top is this PDF report. And so basically, clicking that button allows you to generate a PDF which will include everything that you see in Sitebulb. So all of the different sections, along with the graphs, the data tables, and all the hints. And from this page here, you can choose which stuff you want to include on that. So let's say you didn't want to include anything to do with redirects or security, you can just untick these. And if you didn't want to show the hints, or you didn't want to show any of the charts, you just click these buttons and you can customize this exactly as you want, and then print a PDF, and then you can send that to your client, which is often our users would tend to rarely use this as like a final audit, but more often as an initial audit, or sometimes to do a very sort of specific small subset of the data, and kind of use this as a opening conversation lead generation type technique. So that's what the PDF report is for. So if I go back to the audit now, I just wanted to also show you some of the more innovative reports we've added to Sitebulb recently. And so the first one I've got is this response versus render report. Now, you only get this if you crawl the site with the Chrome crawler. And if you click response versus render, what this is actually showing you is the difference between what Sitebulb finds with on the view source, essentially like the raw source HTML, versus the fully rendered DOM, and if there are any changes between the two. Now our site does not depend heavily on JavaScript, so there isn't that much actually through many of these. But if you have a site where, we've got one I can show you, if you have a site where things are getting created by or modified by JavaScript, this is really, really, really useful. And you can see that this page here has a link that's created by JavaScript. So if we go back, now with all this stuff, this specific report was actually built because we had a we saw users trying to do this and struggling to do this at scale, where they could understand what happens between the point which the source HTML is collected and looked at by search engines, and the point where the rendered content is looked at by search engines. And if you click this learn more here, again we're building in this sort of education into the tool, so that you're not just using it and looking at data and not understanding what you're looking at. There's all sorts of data in this about why it's important, and why this might be a problem, in addition to how you actually look at the data and what you might want to find, what you might find in there. So let's go back to the tool. So that's the response versus rendered report. And then the other innovative report I wanted to show you was this structured data. And this is an overview of all the structured data found on the website. So you might notice that a couple of these reports don't have the little traffic light system alongside them, and that's simply because they don't have any hints and therefore don't have a score associated with them. So there isn't anything that we're saying like empirically bad or good about the structured data found on the website. But when you look through the data, you can analyze it in your own way to understand if there's anything here that you want to either change, fix, or recommend that gets fixed. And so from this page here, you can see that we have kind of the overview of the whole thing, and everything in terms of the structured data in Sitebulb is split between the search features, which are the things that generate rich results, so kind of like Google's part, and then just schema itself. So, you can have a site which has got tons and tons of markup all over it, tons of schema markup all over it, everything marked up, but only a sort of small subset of that would or could generate rich results. And so this is like all of schema, whereas this is just the stuff that might generate rich results. And so we have the URLs with and without, so you can quickly spot if you've got any gaps in terms of your schema markup. And then we have URL validation on both. So this essentially is how many pages are themselves are passing. So which basically means are all the search features found on this page, do all of them pass validation? And if they do, everything's good. And similarly with schema. And then finally we have the search features and the schema entities themselves. So again, you get an idea if everything's passing or failing, or if you have specific things which are failing. So that's like the overview of the structured data stuff. And then as you go across these tabs, you can explore it in much more detail. So this now is showing you the exact search features that were found on the website. And if any errors or warnings were found, you can see these across on the right. So if we just jump into the schema one for a second, so this one shows you all the different schema entities that were found. So that obviously there's a lot more. And then now on the right, you see we have this errors. And so if you click this button, you can see that we have this error with the JSON script is broken. Obviously, we need to fix this. But what's useful and interesting about the way that we've done it in Sitebob, and but we're not seeing that other tools doing it in this way, is that all of the errors are being grouped together. So you can quickly understand if you have issues with templates or you have issues with specific products, specific pages themselves. So if I go through to view, I can now see that I have this JSON script broken on this set of pages, and I can very quickly see that it seems to be the resources pages where I need to go and have a look at what's happened. And by grouping the pages like that, it allows us to quickly jump into and understand very quickly where the problem lies. So if we go back into search features, again, we had the same with the warnings. Now, the warnings, this uses the same system that Google use in terms of errors and warnings, even though warnings are perhaps better termed opportunities. And this is these optional extra recommended properties that you might want to include. And so in this case, we've got a couple of suggestions here. And then we also have some that don't have any problems with them. But it doesn't mean that you can't still look at the data. So let's say we wanted to look at the software app. If we click on this button here, now we're looking at the pages that are marked up with the software app search feature schema. And in this case, it's just on our home page. And here you can see that we have all the data if there are any errors, and in this case there aren't. But we also have this little button here to open up the structured data. So if I open this up here now, you can see that we are basically on this URL, this single URL view again. So we looked at one of these earlier where you can jump in and see specific details about this this specific URL. Except it jumped us straight into the structured data tab. And now this allows us to see all the data associated with this, all the structured data associated with this specific URL. So if we want to look at the software app, we can see that we've got this aggregate rating, we've got the rating count and all the data in here. And now let's just say we came in here and there was actually a problem. Let's say there was an error where we'd missed a rating count or a rating value or one of these data points, and it was it was flagging as an error. Well, we also have the link straight to the Google developer references. So bring this across, you can see now we're straight into software apps. So you don't have to go digging through Google's documentation to find the most relevant thing. It's simply jumping you straight to the thing that you need in the first place. And then similarly, if there were any, so if you go and find schema, if there were any schema errors, let's say with organization, you can click through and again, it's going to pull you straight into the schema.org organization page. So everything is kind of hot linked in that way to the most relevant place to help you in the quickest possible time. So they are two of the reports we've added recently that are particularly innovative. And now I can also show you a couple of the other things that we've added into Siteboard recently. So if I go into view product, so now this is my product page for this project itself. And if I go into edit settings, you can see that these were the settings that Sitebob ran with when I set this audit up. Now there were a couple of things that I didn't do. One of them was this content extraction. And so I'm just going to show you that now. If I click content extraction, I need to go and add some rules. So let me pick a page. So I'm going to add this page in here now. So basically, when we were thinking about this feature itself, we saw loads and loads of tools, which basically, if you wanted to kind of extract an element from this page, you had to go and open the page up in Chrome and then go into DevTools, inspect the element, find the CSS selector, and then paste the CSS selector in, and then run the crawler, look at the data, realize you'd messed up the CSS selector, and had to go all the way back to the beginning. So when we built this, we were trying to solve those problems. So instead, what we've got is a point and click application. So let's say I wanted to pick out this breadcrumb element, right? I can say, so what is that? The fourth breadcrumb. I want to pick up specifically that breadcrumb. All I need to do is click the button and it's going to fill in that CSS selector path, and I can look on test to see if I've got it right. And that's as simple as that. You go and add the rule and it's in there. If I want to add another rule, it's going to load that same page up again. And let's say I just want to pick something like the H1, right? It's immediately picked out the right thing. You can see that the test is picking up exactly what it needs to pick up. And then you can just add the rule. Not a very inventive one, is that the H1, but that'll do. And so you can see how this extraction works. You just add the rules as you need them. You get that validation when you're going, and there's loads and loads of other bits and pieces you can do in the extraction in terms of the things that you pick out, how you match the data, and the type of data that you want it to match. And we have, again, built into the software, we have this how-to guide which will explain all of this stuff. There's loads and loads and loads of data on here, animations and images and stuff, which explains exactly how to do everything and what sort of data you can get out of Sitebulb. So that is the content extraction. And then finally down here we have scheduling. So this was one of the things, one of the features we were most requested by our customers, because Sitebulb is desktop software which has got loads and loads of advantages to it, but some of the disadvantages are that it doesn't do things in the background for me. It doesn't crawl things so that I've always got an audit there. So we tried to solve that with the scheduling option that we added, and it allows you to add this recurring. So you can go ahead and schedule one audit. So you can do it in the middle of the night. Let's say the devs are saying to you, right, this really popular website, please don't crawl it in the day. So you can say, right, okay, well, we're going to crawl it at the weekend, and we're going to crawl it in the middle of the night. So we'll crawl it at 1 a.m. and you can set it to only crawl then. You can also set it to recur. So you could say, right, well, we know we need to report on this every single month. So let's do one now, and we'll crawl it every month. So we'll call it April 5th at this time, and then Sitebulb will fire up in the background, and it's going to crawl this site specifically on the time and the schedule that you set for it, so that every time you need that audit, it's in there for you. Okay, so that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of Sitebulb's workflows and how you can use the software to produce extremely insightful website audits in a really efficient and effective manner. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more demos, walkthroughs and Q&As.